Hello everyone, it's Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist, live here today. I'm trying to go live on my Facebook and Instagram at the same time. Today we're going to talk about fertility boosting foods for women, and we're going to discuss about fertility a little bit. So if I keep switching between two different frames, that's because I'm looking at my Instagram. I still have to figure this thing out with tech, so it kind of doesn't interfere. So today we're going to talk about fertility and fertility boosting foods, especially for women. And I'm going to start by talking a little bit about fertility in terms of Ayurveda, right? And what Ayurvedic medicine is. So a quick thing is Ayurveda is the medicine for life or the healthiest way of living, right? So that's all it means is, the science of life or wisdom of life. And that wisdom talks about everything, including fertility. And as Ayurvedic doctors, we focus a lot on the preconception. So we don't think about supporting the pregnancy when the pregnancy has already occurred, but we start by helping people plan healthier pregnancies. We start by detoxifying your bodies before a pregnancy so your body stays extremely healthy. You stay extremely healthy throughout the pregnancy, and you can enjoy this phase of life rather than kind of stressing about it, and making sure your body has adequate nutrient resources as well, right? So I've seen a lot of people, a lot of women start supplementing supplements as soon as they get pregnant, but the time to really fortify your body, make it extremely strong, is before you get pregnant. And that's what we're going to talk about, fertility boosting foods. We're going to talk about certain nutrients that are essential for having a healthy pregnancy, and I'm going to describe the Ayurvedic perspective of having a healthy pregnancy. I'm going to say a quick hi to everyone here. If you're watching this live, say a quick hi. If you are watching this as a replay, you can put a hashtag and ask replay and ask me any questions that you have. I can see Vipul is here, Sumita is here, and I can see Natraj Academy as well on my Instagram. And I am trying to go between two screens, so just bear with me, right? So let's talk about pregnancy and the four essentials of fertility, right? So when we talk about fertility in terms of Ayurveda, the first question that I get most of the time is, how is food and nutrition important, or why is food and nutrition important when we talk about pregnancy or fertility, right? So food and nutrition is extremely important when you talk about fertility, when you talk about your health in general. Anything to do with your health, physical health, emotional health, is deeply also rooted in your diet and nutrition, and your entire body is known as Annamay Kosh, or the sheath that is made up of food. You have to understand that your ovaries, your ovum, your eggs, your sperm, they're all going to derive nutrients from the very food that you eat. So you cannot escape, you know um, the consequences of having bad food or junk food or tons of preservatives. So the quality of food you eat on a daily basis is going to matter a lot, even when it comes to conception or fertility. So no matter what you are planning to do, the first thing is always to clean up your diet, because remember that your cells, these eggs or the sperm that we talk about, they are your body cells. They're dependent on the food that you eat for your nutrition, right? So if you are someone who's having challenges with fertility, the first thing I would advise you is always start by cleaning up your diet. Always start by making sure you're eating healthy and you're de-junking your diet. It's very easy to get caught up in dietary and nutritional trends and fad diets, and actually start eating foods that are not as great quality, and just fall for different gimmicks, right? So you have to make sure you're eating fresh, clean foods that are not processed, and that also have tons of life force known as prana. So prana is not oxygen, right? Prana is the life force which is also present in fresh foods. and everything fresh. So that is also extremely important, and that helps your vitality, right? So the first thing is always, look for cleaner foods, look for fresh foods, avoid anything processed, and start dejunking your diet, start detoxing your diet. For someone that's planning a conception, I would start at least 6 months before you plan, to really kind of detoxify your body and change your diet. So that's the first thing, you have to start, is clean up your diet, because your entire body is made up of, depends on the food that you eat. It's known as the annamaya kosha, as I was talking to you before, and that is extremely important. Now, when we talk about the four elements of fertility, in Ayurveda, there's a very nice shlok that talks about the four essential components that have to come together optimally, right? You can't just focus on one thing, but all these four have to be really optimal for conception to occur. And the first is known as the time, or the rutu. The second is known as the kshetra, or field. The third, we talk about ambu, or any kind of nutrition, that is the fluids, or nutrition, known as ambu. And the fourth is the beej, or the actual seeds, or the actual cells, right? So when we talk about the timing, that's the first thing we talk about. We talk about the timing for fertility. So we also talk about the age, right? And there are different factors when we talk about the timing. So the maternal age is also known as a huge factor when it comes to pregnancy and fertility. And over the age of 30, or by as every decade increases, your chances are going to be low. So you have to make sure you're trying, earlier on. Stability, stress, in your life. So the timing for you right now, if you are under a lot of stress already, it is a bad idea to start trying right now, because that stress is going to have a toll on your body. And whenever you are under a lot of stress, your body doesn't function optimally, your hormones can go out of balance. So that is something you have to consider as well. You have to make sure, even when we talk about time, that you're having healthy menstrual cycles, right? These are extremely important when we talk about your the timing, or the rutu, right? So these are a few things, few concepts to understand. Then we talk about kshetra, or kshetra is known as the actual area, or the location, or the field is kind of maybe a proper explanation for kshetra, is the field. So where the conception can occur, that is known as the field. Or um, yeah, the condition of the uterus, the condition of your health organ. So your entire body has to be healthy, and it has to be free of toxins. If you have tons of toxins, or high ama, as we call in Ayurveda, you're not going to be healthy, and the conception is not going to occur. So your cells, or body cells, for them to function optimally, you have to have a healthy body which is free of toxins. A lot of your doshas have to be balanced. In Ayurvedic terminology, we talk about excess vata, or excess pitta, or even excess kapha can create blockages, and they can prevent conception. So it's extremely important, and this shows up sometimes as abnormalities either in the uterus, or it also shows up as abnormalities in any kind of, your reproductive cells, like eggs or sperms. So that is something you have to make sure. You have to make sure, there's no obstruction in the fallopian tubes. There could be lots of causes of infertility, and anything to do with field is mostly to do with your uterus. So you have to make sure, even the environment of the uterus has to be receptive. If you have lots of acidity in the body, and if you're extremely acidic, chances are conception is not going to take place. So that is another factor you have to consider, right? The third thing, we go to the health and nutrition. So when we talk about this, um, nutrition from an Ayurvedic perspective, you have to understand that when you're eating food, that goes through several layers, and the last layer, the last of the tissues, is what we know as shukra, which is also your reproductive tissue. So all your reproductive cells are made kind of the last, unless there are some foods that can really support directly. But you have to be able to digest, and you need a strong digestive fire, and you also need a strong metabolic apparatus for all the conversions to happen, or even pick up the nutrients, right? An example is, if you don't have, you know a good digestion, you're not breaking foods down, chances are you're not going to pick up folate or folic acid from your food, and that is going to interfere with your conception. If you don't have a good digestion or metabolism, you're not going to be able to, pick up certain nutrients and synthesize them into your body cells to create healthier cells, and that is what this means as well. So when we talk about the nutrition, you have to have good nutrition, you have to have balanced hormones, you have to have um, all the nutrients, have to be in optimal ranges, right, including your iron, including your folic acid, and I'm going to discuss a few of those right now in some time. But these have to be optimal as well for pregnancy. That's extremely important. And stress is one factor which is a huge part, like in the pandemic everybody is stressed out, and especially if you are trying to conceive at this time, it can be even more stressful. So making sure that trying some de-stressor, or stress management tool on an everyday basis, be it journaling, painting, it could be anything, but that's going to be extremely important for you. So this is something, to try out. Like, make sure you have some de-stress, it could be like a simple calm app that I listen to every morning for myself, so something that keeps you away from stress, or something that decompresses you, or something that helps you just calm down. Hi Shane, hi Vimarsha, hello. There's a Facebook user, I can't see your name. If you're in my group, that's what StreamYard does. So yeah, so let me go back to where my notes are. Yeah, and then we talk about the seeds or the beej from an Ayurvedic perspective, so we talk about the egg and the sperm. And again, your diet is going to be extremely important, your lifestyle is also going to be extremely important. Some examples are, tobacco use, like smoking, or alcohol use, any kind of drugs, heavy exposure to chemicals like pesticides, excess pollution, heavy contamination of soil is going to impact your bodily cells and is going to interfere with conception, right, and interfere with pregnancy. So those are factors you have to, think about, and you have to eliminate these factors. And also, if you are having issues already, related to hormones, making sure that your water is clean. Water, the drinking water is extremely important. Filtering the water is also extremely important, because there could be microplastics which are not visible to your eyes, or there could be, pesticides or something that could also leach into your water, right? So having clean water is also extremely important. So far we've discussed the four essential factors that contribute to fertility or conception. Now I'm going to talk about some of the essential nutrients, right? So we're going to talk about the nutrients that are necessary for a healthy pregnancy. One of the first ones is folic acid or folate, and that is also extremely important for neurological development, of the baby. And it is also important for you to be able to conceive. So this folic acid is found in your spinach, kale, leafy green vegetables. So having a good diet is extremely important. And getting these nutrients, you can definitely get these through your food itself. So this is one of the main factors that I consider, that can help you get pregnant, is having enough amounts of folate or folic acid. The other one, according to modern nutrition, they've identified zinc is an important factor as well, right? So there are studies done from the Pennsylvania State University, right, where they concluded that zinc deficiency can have a negative impact on your egg development, right, and also on the sperm development. So zinc is known as this key regulator, and that is why having enough zinc is important. And this is one of the reasons why, people talk about oysters as an aphrodisiac food, right? So lots of nuts and seeds are going to have this zinc as well, and that zinc is important. And for you to get nutrients through your food, you have to make sure your digestion is functioning really well, and your stomach fire is like really ignited, you're not overeating, you don't have a lot of toxins, otherwise they all impact your absorption of nutrients, right? So zinc is micronutrient, but that is extremely important. Typical the dose is 8 milligrams for an adult woman, and For pregnancy, it is 12 milligrams. So make sure, you have zinc, and that can help with conception. Omega 3 fatty acids have been talked about a lot in the past, few years. I have spoken about omega 3s in the radio show that we did on Saturday. Last Saturday, we were talking about, anti-inflammatory foods, and every time I talk about something, omega 3s are in the picture. So essential for brain development. They're also anti-inflammatory, which means they're going to decrease your inflammation in the body, and they can definitely help with your fertility. And to include these omega 3s, you can start incorporating some kind of fatty fish in your diet. You can have salmon, you can have sardines, you can have tuna, so some kind of fatty fish, or start eating walnuts, which look like mini brains, and they're extremely important for the development of eyes and brain for the baby, or for the fetus, right? And it's also important for the moms. So when you conceive, or if you're planning conception, they're going to be extremely important at both times. Hi Anu, nice to see you. I can see Eva, I can see my home mantra as well. So thank you for watching this live. So these are a few things. Then, iron is again an essential nutrient that is important for fertility as well as during pregnancy. So if you are annoyed with those iron tablets, or liquid iron is an easier form. There are some good tasting irons as well. They don't have to taste gross. You can always visit us at Blue Water Nutrition, and we have some really nice iron liquids, which I have highly recommend for most women, because most women that I see are deficient in iron, and whether you're trying to conceive or not, it is definitely going to help you, especially for conception. It does help. And the other thing I would love to talk about is iodine, or iodine, however you like to call it. So iodine is a mineral that is important for your thyroid function. And if you have a low functioning thyroid, that is going to create issues with conception and fertility. And that is definitely going to even lead to miscarriages. Low thyroid can cause a lot of harm in your body, and also impact your fertility. It can also impact your, the fetal development. It can cause, growth retardation in children. So there are so many factors that can be caused by lowered thyroid hormone, and one of the nutrients that this thyroid gland needs is iodine, or iodine. So including that in your diet. Seafood is rich in this iodine, also kelp, nori, any kind of seaweed. You can definitely pick up some seaweed and add it to your soups. If you love sushi, it's the green paper like thing, that's called nori sheets, and they are rich in iodine. And you can also add some seaweed to your diet while making a soup or something, and that's going to be beneficial to you. Hello, Dr. Ashok, nice to see you. Thank you for watching this. Yeah, so these are a few nutrients that I wanted to talk about. And now when we talk about fertility boosting foods, so there are some foods, as we've talked about, zinc containing foods and certain foods. But one of the best things for boosting fertility, when we talk about herbs, there are some Ayurvedic herbs as well. So in Ayurveda, we talk about milk and ghee that are also essential, right? So milk is a product, and we talk about fresh organic milk. I know milk is controversial nowadays, but if you can find the whole organic milk, that is one food that is going to nourish all your tissues till your reproductive organs. So the food you eat goes through a sequence to be able to nourish, your reproductive cells. Milk can do this instantly, and milk is one thing you can have if you are, but try to have organic. Please do not have any kind of non-organic milk. So whole milk, organic milk can definitely help. The other thing that helps when we talk about Ayurvedic herbs is shatavari is a fantastic herb. Maca is a fantastic herb. So there are lots of herbs as well that you can use as food. So shatavari, you can definitely add it to your milk. I would not recommend, having herbs by themselves without consulting anyone, because shatavari can also increase the growths if you have any kind of tumors and stuff, which you don't know about. So making sure that you're not having excess amounts of shatavari without consulting someone. But there are some herbs that can work really well. Certain foods like flax seeds, you can include in your diet. Amla berries are antioxidant rich, so any foods that are rich in antioxidants like blueberries and stuff, you can definitely have. One of my favorite fruits is pomegranate, right? It's also known as the fruit of vitality. That also helps with fertility, right? And it also helps cleanse your blood and makes sure that all your tissues are functioning well too. So pomegranate is another fruit to have in your diet, and that's going to help. So, hi, explorers of the globe. We are talking about fertility in women, and we are talking about certain foods to include. So, these are a few things, In Ayurveda, we have different regimens, So, every month after getting pregnant, you're having a certain diet. Before pregnancy, you have to detoxify your body. So, the diet is going to be different. But for the whole, try to have as fresh as you can, right? Try to have as clean as you can, and try to minimize things that have excess added hormones, because they could interfere with your hormones. So make sure if you're buying meat, it's hormone free. If you're buying water, it's clean water, and you're not drinking water out of those plastic bottles, or you're not having lining of the BPA can, which can also serve as xenoestrogens or false estrogens or pseudoestrogens, which can disrupt the hormonal level in your body. And sugar is one thing that you have to stay away from, refined sugar, because when we talk about conditions like polycystic ovaries, they have to do with insulin insensitivity that is directly linked to excess refined sugar. So cleaning up your diet is extremely important. So Shane is asking me a really good question. Can panchakarma procedures help in preconception period? So 100%. So in Ayurveda, um, we talk about like cleansing before you're conceiving, right? Panchakarma procedures definitely can help. There are so many different ones, like even, Uttarbasti and stuff that could help. In Canada, not all are feasible, right? But with diet and nutrition itself, you can do a lot. Dietary detoxification can really, really help you optimize your body, not only to conceive, but also make sure that your body is strong and fortified, to bear the child and have a good delivery, and have a good postpartum as well. And if you take good care of yourself right from the preconception phase, you're not going to suffer from different conditions like postpartum depression, or digestive issues can pop up, after you start um, like after you have the baby, because you're already devoid of nutrients, and then your health goes for a toss because you're waking up all the nights, trying to cope up with such a huge life change, right? So that's important to understand. I'm going to take a quick few questions. That is it true that a pregnant woman feels to eat is the indication? So that is like an old wives tale, that depending on what you like to eat, it indicates whether it's a girl or boy. Depending on the glow of your skin, it indicates whether it's a girl or a boy. So these are old wives tales, and sometimes they're true, so I'm not quite sure. And Anu is asking, how far ahead of planned conception should you begin this detox? I would suggest at least 6 months, right? I would suggest that if you're really planning for conception, at least, if you are on birth control, especially, at least give yourself 6 months to really cleanse your body, which is extremely important. And if you are already trying, so if you have started trying for conception, try to avoid any detoxification if you are already trying, right? Because you cannot detoxify once you've decided, if you are already trying, pregnancy can occur at any time. Avoid detoxifying because it's going to harm your body even more. So that is another tip. Can you name some yoga postures for infertility issues? So there are lots of yoga postures. Even like a child's pose would help, with your increasing the flow to your uterus. So that's something, shavasana, if you're under a lot of stress, the corpse pose or shavasana can definitely help you relax and calm down. Yoga nidra is one of my favorite things. So yoga nidra also helps you have the seeds of intention planted in your mind or your psyche. I've done an interview on yoga nidra. You can check it on my YouTube channel, so that's also important. There are certain other poses like halasan. If you have issues with your thyroid, or matsyasan, they could also help. So when it comes to fertility, there is not one thing, right? You have to look at the status of doshas in the body. You have to look at your diet, you have to look at the nutrition, you have to look at the lifestyle, you have to look at all the factors, because when we talk about conception, it is the optimal presence of all the factors we talked about, right? Rutu, kshetra, ambu, and beach. So not only your sperm and ovum have to be extremely potent and viable, but also your body has to be really healthy to be able to have the pregnancy and successfully carry the pregnancy. Your mind has to be strong as well. Your lifestyle has to be optimal as well. So we are going to look at different factors all over, rather than just focusing on one thing. But yeah, so these are a few things about fertility and pregnancy, from the talk today. So if you have questions, feel free to post any questions here. Feel free to message me as well if you have any questions, or if you're someone who's trying and you need some more help with it. I'll be more than happy to set up a 15-minute free consultation with you, and we can see how we can help you. So thank you all for watching this live, and thank you for everyone who's here on my Instagram, who's here on my Facebook page as well. So thank you once again, and I will see you next week for another Wellness Wednesday. I'm just going to try and figure out the topic, which should be right here. So, okay, we're going to talk about on the 14th. Just 1 second. Yeah. So next week at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, we're going to talk about the difference between PCOS and PCOD. Polycystic ovarian syndrome and polycystic ovarian disease, these are common conditions that affect women, and that could lead to a lot of fertility struggles, right? So we are going to talk about the differences, and we're going to discuss a little bit about the diet as well, for those who are either diagnosed with PCOS or PCOD. So thank you once again for watching this live. I'm just going to stop all the live videos, and thank you for watching. Bye for now.